Hey everyone, it's Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration law firm, and we help individuals and businesses across the 50 United States, as well as individuals that are outside of the states. And I wanted to come live again this evening to chat with y'all. As you know, I am a former USCIS Adjudications Officer over at headquarters in Washington, D.C. I am a practicing immigration attorney. I've been practicing for over 20 years now. And I work with companies that have found a candidate that is not a U.S. citizen that needs the right work authorization. And I work with entrepreneurs who are expanding their businesses into the U.S., who need the right work authorization and to bring their families along. And I work with families that are here in the U.S. Usually it's going to be a U.S. citizen who's looking to get a green card for one of their family members. And I also help people get U.S. citizenship. So that's my practice. I am here to chat with you all. There's a couple things I wanted to tell y'all tonight before we dive into your questions. Sorry, I'm still getting over my cold. As I always say, I am an attorney, but I am not your specific attorney. So if you would like specific advice, legal advice for your specific case, your specific circumstance, the best way for you to become one of my clients and work with me directly is to schedule a consultation, and then we can start going. So everything tonight is information only, but it is not legal advice specific to your situation. So what I wanted to talk about tonight is the green card. And in my practice, we help people get green cards either through employment or through a family member. And so I've gotten a lot of questions recently on if my employer is sponsoring me, but I'm also married to a U.S. citizen, or I'm married to a green card holder, can my spouse also sponsor me? And that answer is yes. You are not limited to trying to get your green card by only one way. I have definitely worked with folks in the past where, the employment route was taking a little bit longer just because of the specific category that they were in, but yet they were married to a U.S. citizen. So, if that's the case, your U.S. citizen spouse can definitely sponsor you. So just keep that in mind. You're not limited to one type of green card application. You certainly want to do it with some strategy involved and really thinking about what's the best way for us to make this happen, what's the best way for us to reach our goals. But you can have an employment-based and a family-based green card application going at the same time. Now, I say that if you are in the United States, you can only have one adjustment of status application filed. So you can't have a bunch of different adjustment of applications filed. So that's why I say you're going to need some strategy. You're going to need to think through how you do that. But only one adjustment of status application. So we're really looking at that either either the I-130, which you file for a family-based application, or the I-140. What are we doing in those particular situations, and how do we get, which one will get you where you want to go fastest? Because I know everyone wants to go fast. So I want to talk about, I do a lot of education around, and I do a lot of talking about the national interest waiver and the extraordinary ability ways to get green cards. Those are two ways to get green card that you don't need an employer. You don't need an employer to sponsor you. So I talk about that a lot. But I also tonight want to talk about the EB2 and the EB3 category, because those categories are definitely viable categories in order to get your green card, right? So in EB2 preference category, employment-based 2, the second preference category, is a category for individuals where the position that you are being hired into requires a master's degree or higher. and you as the beneficiary have a master's degree or higher. We're not talking about EB2 national interest waiver. We're talking about sort of plain Jane regular EB2. The position must require a master's degree. And then for EB3, the position must require a bachelor's degree or higher, and the individual must have a bachelor's degree or higher in a related field. So if the job doesn't require a bachelor's degree, but you have a bachelor's degree, doesn't matter, right? Because then you're not qualified for that EB3 position. Or let's say the job requires a bachelor's degree and you have a bachelor's degree, but your bachelor's degree is not related. It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't dovetail into that particular role of what the employer needs. Then you don't qualify for EB3. So I speak with my clients, I speak with the employers, and they will say to me, I talk a lot with the lawyers that work inside companies, talk a lot with human resources individuals, I talk a lot with the managers, and they will always say to me, well, this person has a bachelor's degree, or this person has a master's degree, and they want EB2. Yes, the person may have a master's degree, but if the employer tells me the job only requires a bachelor's degree, then it is not an EB2 application. It is an EB3 application. So let me say that again. If the position requires a bachelor's degree, but the individual may have a master's degree, the position and the application will be an EB3, because we have to look at what the job requires. So there has to be that connection between the two. Whether you're EB2 or EB3 in these particular scenarios, we will work with Department of Labor. We will get a prevailing wage from Department of Labor. We will then do some advertising for the position according to the Department of Labor requirements. Then we will file with the Department of Labor, showing them that we have done recruitment and that the employer couldn't find someone that was qualified. Once that's approved, then we move to our I-140. We file the I-140. At the I-140 stage, we show that the individual beneficiary, the immigrant, meets the qualification. So they have the right, they have the right experience that the employer is looking for. They have the degree that the employer is looking for, that, in the right major, right? If the degree was from overseas, meaning outside of the US, then we also show that the degree received outside is the equivalent of what they would have received in the US, right? And we show in that application that the employer has the ability to pay the wage. That's crucial. The employer has to be able to show that they can pay the wage. If the visa bulletin allows us, if our place in line is all the stars are aligned according to the visa bulletin, then we can file the adjustment of status application. With the adjustment of status application, my office, unless there is a real reason not to, my office will always file independent work authorization and travel permission along with your adjustment of status applications. So I wanted to let y'all know that. One, you can have a family-based application as well as an employment-based application going at the same time, except you're only going to be allowed one adjustment of status application to be filed. And two, EB2 and EB3 are absolutely viable ways to obtain a green card. So you all know I'm happy to answer questions. So let me see if we have questions. And depending on how many questions you have will depend on how long we are on together this evening. Let's see here. Y'all know I'm a slow scroller. Bear with me. Let's see here. What do we got? Can I have my EB3 approval the same time with my dependent if we filed at the same time? So immigration is going to, assuming that everything, assuming that your adjustment of status applications were filed with you and your dependent, typically immigration will adjudicate and process those applications at the same time. Now, there have been instances where maybe immigration has questions about one application, but not the other application. So sometimes you will see applications that are approved with a slightly different, at a slightly different times. But usually, at least in my office, we see them all approved. We see the family unit approved at the same time, especially if they are filed at the same time. Immigration, I think they like to just get the whole family and get the whole file, together, get it done and get it out the door at the same time. But there have been instances certainly where, one person had, had some red flags or some issues in their file, and so they had to adjudicate them separately at separate times. But yeah, you should, they really should come sort of at the same time. My 485 approved 53 days now, and I don't get the card, and I got a job offer. What can I do? If you don't have your card, you should wait, right? I mean, it's approved, so you just have to wait for it. If you need something from the Immigration Service, you can go and try to get what's called an InfoPass appointment. Go into your local office, and they, if they can pull up your approval in the system, they may give you what's called an added stamp or an I-551 stamp on your passport, showing that you are in fact a green card holder. You just for some reason don't have your card, but you can certainly try that. If that's something that you need help with, my office is certainly willing to help you with that. See how we can help you. Just go to the link in my bio, and you can schedule a consultation. I'm more than happy to chat with you about that. How long does it take for the spouse I-130 to get approved? On my lives, I generally don't talk about processing times. Processing times are going to depend on the type of application filed and the specific office adjudicating the application. So an I-130 in California has a different processing time than an I-130 out in Iowa has a different processing time than an I-130 in your local office in Florida. So the short answer to your question is I don't know, because every single time a client asks me that, I look it up. And you can look up processing times on the USCIS website. That is absolutely available to you. So I just don't know. I don't know all the processing times. Let's see here. How do I file a FOIA? It depends on what agency you are trying to file the FOIA with. Excuse me. If you'd like my firm to help you, you can certainly schedule a consult and we can certainly help you get that filed. But how you file a FOIA really depends on the agency that you're filing it with and what sort of information you were trying to get from the agency, from the file, and whether or not you're trying to get information with respect to you or with respect to someone else. So there's a few things that go into filing a FOIA. Let's see here. What happens if a person files for an adjustment of status, then they want to leave the country? Very generally speaking, if you have filed an adjustment of status, the rule is if you file an adjustment of status and you leave and you do not have approved advance parole before you leave, advance parole is travel permission, your adjustment of status application will automatically be denied. Now, it may take them years to deny it once they actually get to it, but they will look and see that you've traveled without advance parole. Now, if you are one of my employment-based clients and you are here on H-1B or L, those have what we call dual intent. So folks in H or L status with an adjustment of status pending can travel without having an approved advance parole and come back in on their H or L, and their adjustment is not denied. But if you travel, and that's the rule for folks that are in H or L, but the general rule is if you travel without an approved advance parole, approved before you leave the country, immigration, when they get to your application, when they get to processing your 45, they will ultimately deny it. So you want to make sure that you have a sound strategy in place. That is why I recommend that people work with attorneys, so that they have a sound strategy in place, especially when it comes to travel. We are coming up at the end of the year, which is, my gosh, time flies. So with my clients, we are talking about end of year travel for the holidays, and what that looks like. And if we haven't addressed some of that during the summer, we are starting to address it now for some folks to make sure that they can seamlessly travel during the holidays if they wish. That includes people that have adjustment applications pending. I was passing the border many times and they didn't allow me, but when they allow me, they said I don't know what you mean. Passing the border. Yeah, I don't know what you mean. You're going to have to sort of re-ask that. I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. Let me see here. Can I apply for a green card after my H-1B visa? Unless there is some reason why you cannot. The general rule is sure. I mean, as a general rule of thumb, absolutely. There's nothing about an H-1B that prevents somebody from applying for a green card. There's nothing at all. I work with many of my clients. I work with the companies and walk them through the process and help them through that process of applying for green cards for their employees. And they are, their employees are in H-1B status, they are in L-1 status, they are in O-1 status. And, we walk them through what is the best strategy for them and how they can support their employees with getting green cards through the company. What forms can I apply after my H-1B visa to get a green card? It depends on the strategy. It completely depends on the strategy that is being used to get a green card. It depends on the category that you will be applying for your green card. So if you want to have a conversation with me as well as your employer at the same time, you're welcome to book a consultation and we can talk about that, how I can help your employer help you, or if you're self-employed, how, what does that strategy look like? Can you travel with a 2-year temporary residence? If you mean the 2-year conditional green card, assuming there are no other reasons that you shouldn't be traveling, yes, people with 2-year conditional permanent residence may travel using that green card. That's one of the benefits of that green card. So now is a great time to remind you all, I am an attorney. I am not your specific attorney. The information I am giving you is just that. It is general information. If you want to have a consultation and talk about your specific situation, or you want to work with my firm, the way that starts is scheduling a consultation with us. And you can do that using the link in your bio. Or the link in my bio, sorry, not the link in your bio. Let's see here. I-130 says it's taking longer to process. What does that mean, concurrent filing? Well, a concurrent filing is when you file 2 applications at the same time. So in the I-130 context, usually when I say concurrent filing, I mean I'm filing an I-130 and a 485 at the same time. So hope that answers your question. How long does it take to get a visa interview after the NVC accepts the application for the I-130? Once your case moves to the NVC, you will submit, and NVC will reach out. Right now it's taking a couple of months for NVC to acknowledge that they have received the notice of approval from the Immigration Service. It's some folks, I was talking to some colleagues yesterday, and they said it was taking them a couple months. So a couple months. And then, you go, there's back and forth with NVC to get them the documents that they need. Then once you are documentarily qualified, then NVC works with the consulate to get you an interview. So depending on where you are in that process will depend on how long, how much more time you have left. before they schedule your interview. But that is what the process looks like in general. Let's see here. Does a denied visa interview I-130 go back to USCIS, or does it stay at the embassy? So I'm assuming we are talking about a family-based green card interview. If you are denied, the file itself does not stay in the embassy. It gets sent back to the US. The embassy is not in the business of keeping files. They are not in the business of storage. So your file will get sent back to the US. Let me see here. Let's see if I have any more questions. All right, let me see if I got some more questions over here on YouTube. And we are live, just so you know where to find me. On TikTok, my YouTube channel, private Facebook group, as well as a Facebook page. If you'd like to join the private Facebook group, you are welcome to do that. Across social media, I am USA Visa Guru. That is my handle across all social medias. Let me see here. Someone has said the interview will take place in the UAE. I don't know what you were saying to me. But if you have an interview scheduled in the UAE, congratulations. That is wonderful. I hope it is successful for you. I have an associate degree. Do I qualify for an EB3? So EB3 also takes what is considered to be unskilled as well. So people that have less than a bachelor, they have less than a bachelor's degree and the position requires less than a bachelor's degree. So if you have an associate degree and the position requires an associate degree, yes, that could be an EB3 application. Let's see here. I'm a Canadian married to a USA permanent PR. I'm assuming is permanent resident. How long does it take to process to the United States? Short answer is I don't know. Every single time one of my clients asks me about processing times, I look them up specifically. Processing times are going to depend on the type of case that you are filing and where that case will be processed, which specific office in the US will be processing that case. So in order to really kind of dig into that and give you a better processing time, a consultation would be necessary because I would need to know, we'd have to be able to figure out which office is more than likely going to process that case. So I generally do not provide processing times because there's so many things that go into them. Let's see here. During adjustment of status towards EB3 and your partner gifts you money monthly, would USCIS suspect? Suspect what is my question. So I'm not quite sure what you are asking. Do I have to be in status if now in the US? Do I have to be in status? Ideally, you are in status. The reality is not everybody in the US is in status and here with legal status, and we know that. So I'm not quite sure what your question is. But I will say, when you have lawful status in the US, you will have more options to obtain your goal. Whether your goal is a non-immigrant employment-based situation or status, whether your goal is US citizenship, whether your goal is a green card or lawful permanent residence, whether your goal is to get a work permit, whether your goal is to renew your driver's license. Being in status gives you more options. Now, if you are not in status, there can be options as well. Not all the time, but there can be options. but you will always have more options available to you if you are in status. So that is just something to remember. I don't actually understand what that is. Can you still marry someone that's been deported because of criminal charges and bring them back? Short answer is I don't know. That falls within deportation defense, and my firm doesn't do any deportation defense, so I do not know. If someone has been hurt, if someone has been in front of an immigration judge, if someone has had, if they've been ordered deported, if they've chosen voluntary departure, those are cases that I don't handle. So I don't know the answer to that. You should speak with an attorney who handles deportation defense cases all day, every day. What happens if you're waiting on an interview and you just had a baby? My husband filed for me. I have no idea. I would need a ton more facts to figure out what you are trying to get to and what question you're really trying to figure out. That is definitely a consultation question. And you can schedule that by clicking the link in my bio. I work with clients in all 50 states and all over the world. I have clients, quite honestly, all over. So, it doesn't really matter where you are. I can certainly work with you. Yeah. Let me see what else we got here. Let me see if we have any questions over here. And in terms of who I work with, I can hop on planes, trains, and automobiles to get to my clients if we need to get to an interview, that sort of thing. I chat with people on the phone, on video, so it is quite a seamless practice. Immigration laws are the same across the country, across the U.S., across the 50 states, so it does not matter where you are located. So I can certainly help you wherever you are located. Let's see. All right, I don't see any more questions. So it's going to be a short night tonight, y'all. If you are looking to work with my firm, we are happy to work with you. That always begins with a consultation. You can schedule that clicking the link in my bio. If you want to see other previous lives that I've done during the evenings, you can look on they are all on the YouTube channel, which you can find at USA Visa Guru. Most of them are in the private Facebook group. You can access that using the link in my bio. You can call the office, 954-903-1337. You can shoot a DM, and we will get to those as well. You check for DMs. We have a couple more questions. Let me see here. Do I foresee any changes in the I-160A? I have no idea because I generally don't do waiver cases. So I don't know. I'm not up to speed and follow everything that is good about waivers. After I-145 approval, how long to wait for the card in the mail? Usually it takes a couple of weeks. It could certainly take longer though, but generally it takes a couple of weeks. At what stage do you get? Every time I say I'm logging off, y'all have like more questions, which is funny. At what stage do you get a travel parole during an EB3 unskilled visa? You can apply for travel permission, which is your advanced parole, when the I-45 is filed. That is when. So it's at the very last stage of the process. So first you're going to do your labor certification, otherwise known as PERM. Then you'll do your I-140. Then you will do your 45. With that 45 is when you can file for advanced parole, which is your travel permission. How do you ask an employer to petition your green card for you? I'm scared. You simply ask them. You simply ask them. Most of the employers that I work with, that is a conversation that is had during the hiring process. A lot of my employer clients address that question. When they are candidates before they are hired, they address that question. So you just have to address it with them. You just have to address it with them. Let's see here. Here's a really good question, which I may talk about at length, maybe a little bit more tomorrow. Can you send evidence to USCIS even if they didn't ask for it? It depends on what you are sending. It depends on why you're sending it. It depends on what office you are sending it to. In general, however, I tell people, let's not start sending information to CIS because the chances that it actually gets into the file without them asking for it, you're asking a lot of the agency to do that. The process of having mail delivered and then having it get into your file, the physical process, the flow of the physical paper is a process. And having seen that process internally, I respect that process. So it really depends on what my clients want to send into the agency, why, when, which office. It is a process for the agency to intake things for an existing file that they have not yet asked for. So can you send evidence to CIS that they haven't asked for it? Sure. The more important question is, should you? And that answer is, it depends. How long does it take for a spouse I-130 to be approved? I don't know. I do not look up processing times while I'm on lives. It will depend on what office is processing that application, and what the classification is for that I-130. Not, the I-130 is used for family-based cases, but it's used for all of the preference categories. So it really depends. Can my cousin or aunt who are U.S. citizens petition for me for a visa or a green card? No. The family-based green cards do not extend out to petitioning for cousins and aunts. So you want to keep that in mind. Most, let's say I got and an RFE is requested from the office. I don't understand that. I don't understand your question. Looks like there's an RFE. Other than that, I'm not quite sure what you are asking. I'm gonna give you like 30 more seconds to type that in. Otherwise, I should be on tomorrow. Before I say that, let me check my calendar. Tomorrow's Thursday. I should be on tomorrow. My plan is to be on tomorrow. I had to check my calendar real quick. Somewhere between like 6 and 7, I think. I will be on tomorrow. I've tried for the 5:30, y'all. It ain't working. Like 5:30 is just not working for me. That was like a pie in the sky dream of mine. Undercooked pizza. I love that screen name. Let me see here. All right, y'all. I don't see any more questions. So I'm gonna log off and go have some dinner and tea to work on my throat situation so I can get better. But listen, if you are thinking about working with a firm, click the link in my bio, schedule consultation. That's how our working relationship will begin. That gives me an opportunity to really dig into your case, see what's going on, see how we can help you. Gives you an opportunity to ask me questions. So you can find me on TikTok, where we are live tonight. YouTube. We are also live on tonight. The private Facebook group, if you're not in it, you can click the link in my bio and request to join that. And you can also follow us on our Facebook page. We're also on Instagram. Also, tag the handle over there is at USA Visa Guru. I just don't tend to go live on Instagram. I'm probably going to change that soon, but I haven't done that yet. Feel free to drop us a line, drop us an email. You can also call the office 954-903-1337. And I will be back tomorrow, and we will chat about more U.S. immigration things. All right, everybody.